The Dawi are known for a lot of things in Warhammer Fantasy. Stout ale, books of grudges, and women so alike in voice and appearance they're often mistaken for dwarf men. They live in Karax, sprawling underground fortresses meant to withstand any siege, and they don't like leaving them, even when the hated Thagaraki are outside. Especially when mangy ratmen are outside, which is why we won't be seeing them. This battle, it's the Empire riding to their rescue while the dwarves crack open some kegs of Bugman's Triple X and watch the fireworks from above. The Conspiracy of Silence is silent no more, as the men of the Empire find this rodent nightmare all too real in a 40-unit cap battle, massive armies, and an artillery show for the ages. Ikit Claw and Clan Scryer, Volkmar the Grim, and the Mariners of Nordland, and the Monsters of Moldor. Should be a fun one, so let's get it poppin'. The mighty Gojira, in command of the Skaven, the build focused around overwhelming ranged firepower and superiority. Globes, mortars, rattling guns, sniper teams, and warp lightning cannons, all under direct control of the most famous and foul Chief Warlock Engineer and his Wheel of Doom. Plenty of chaff, plenty of fodder to throw into the meat grinder, and dash of Frankenstein experiments, but the game plan for the Skaven is fairly simple. It's blow everything up. But they might find the Empire equal to the task. Nordland has marched a long way. Now they must face the harsh reality that rodents of unusual size have nukes and World War II technology. The armies of Volkmar also brought the long-range ruckus, though, with the Sunmaker Hellstorm rocket battery, a host of war wagons, and a steam tank. It's been a while, but love seeing that bad boy in action. It's not just any steam tank, it's the Emperor's Wrath. Try and surround it, you'll find yourself steamed like a black lobster. Battle line of Free Company militia, spearmen, flagellants, and an elite company of cavalry, the Knights of the Blazing Sun, and Demigryph Knights armed with lances. A couple contingents of Outrider grenade launchers as well, which as we know is one of the best chaff clearers in the game. A lot of mobility in this army and lots of ways to clear out all those clan rats and slave rats before they ever make it into melee combat. So, despite all of Clan Scryer's investment in the artillery game, the Empire should be able to force the Skaven closer and really hammer those ratmen lines before they're able to shoot back at all. 2 Hellstorm rocket batteries will do what their name implies, just straight up batter the slaves and clan rats into submission. Maybe perform the role of counter battery as well, maybe help clear out the avalanche mortars. And the nice thing about the Sunmaker is that it fires double the ammo twice as fast, so you generally don't have to worry about protecting it in your back line for very long. A lot of the time, it'll fire all of its ammo before the battle lines have even clashed in earnest. That's a gift and a curse, or it can be anyway, because if you're not on top of that target acquisition, you can end up wasting a bunch of ammo real fast. Creeping barrages have begun. Shell shock shall be our watchword here, and remember, if you're using Hellstorms, it's best to target something in the middle of the enemy army. They have fairly large spread. A lot of the rockets tend to under or overshoot the target, so you can maximize your carnage and make that inaccuracy work for you by blasting the right sectors. Foppish arty crews with their silly sleeves and those silly pantaloons opening up with the Sunmaker. Rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, and they will be answered by warp lightning cannons straight into the war wagons and immediately taking a model off the field. Really good shot. Hit the flank of that unit and carried through, and it's a good opening for the Skaven here. As soon as those avalanche mortars and the poison wind are in range, they will start battering the Empire lines, and we'll see that artillery duel begin to even out. For the moment, though, it looks like the war wagons have moved too far forward. They are trying to get into a flank position to maybe threaten the rat ogres, get rid of some of those monsters, at least push them back and make it so that those swarms in the front be a little bit more isolated and maybe open to cav charges. But they did move too far forward. Jezzails and warp lightning cannons got some good damage in on that one unit, and man, these Hellstorm rocket batteries are causing all kinds of carnage. And at the moment, looks like they're putting most of their focus into deleting those weapon teams, specifically the Poison Wind Globadiers. Now, sniping grenadiers isn't exactly their forte. As we said, they are not a precision tool. The spacing of the Skaven formation has helped them avoid unnecessary casualties from those rockets, but the Empire has plenty of other options for clearing out the Vermintide. They have the Grenadiers, the grenade launchers, they have cav charges from Demigryphs and Knights of the Blazing Sun, they have Volkmar the Grim on his War Wagon of Doom, Unbreakable, Regen, all that good stuff. So it is the Scryer tech that represents the biggest threat, and as we saw from the Avalanche Mortars right there, one single volley enough to pretty much clear an entire unit of state troops off the field. Thing's nasty. You gotta find a way to shut them down early, and you can't really send cav charges up the middle to deal with them because the Jezzails and the Rattling guns are waiting. So the Avalanche Mortars, the Poison Wind Globes in general, All of them great for clearing out these Empire state troops, these Free Company militia, and as they're about to find out, the pirates of Sartosa and the rest of these sellswords, they will be relieved of their craniums by very accurate fire from downtown. So pretty much the millisecond the Skaven got into range, they started absolutely shellacking the Empire battle lines, and Free Company, spearmen, bunch of the state troops already routing, and that's going to open things up. Battle lines are going to break down extremely quickly this battle because both armies have brought so much firepower. Free Company are into range with their pistols. They'll do some good damage to the chaff initially, but with the avalanche mortars firing in, if those aren't cleared up soon, I mean, they are going to like straight up solo this Imperial army. Something has to be done. Emperor's Wrath steam tank firing in to help take out some models, but steam tanks aren't exactly a precision tool either. They only have the one cannon. Yeah, it'll kill some models, but it's not going to get rid of the unit quickly. Something more is needed. That is why the Sunmaker has turned their attention, and it will try to take them out. But they're in loose formation, and they are a small unit. So, again, not really what the Sunmaker is designed for. Really want to be seeing those infantry blobs of zombies or clan and slave rats, but simply not how the Skaven have built their army this battle. There is one clear-cut advantage the Empire have, though, and that is in their mobility. As the Skaven horde encroaches, swarming across the surface, the Knights of Myrmidia, hallowed be your name, form up and ride to ruin. Their job is to stay just out of range of the Scryer guns, avoid the rat ogres and brood horrors, and chip away at the body count of the Skaven horde, waiting for any kind of opportunity they can to plunge into the center and kill off all those weapon teams. Especially with a battle this big, holes will open up, and once the scrum well and truly begins, that is when those holes can be punished by flaming lances and eagle claw, man, bear pig things. I have neglected to mention that this is actually a land battle with capture points fight, and that means the Skaven have already taken control of that center piece, and slowly, inexorably, that number is beginning to rise. So we'll keep an eye on that. It's not a big deal, necessarily. It's really just a side objective to give the combat a bit more context and narrative, a place to focus and fight over. So the score isn't just going to shoot up like crazy. There'll be plenty of time for combat resolution without additional spawning or reinforcements, like you'd see in Domination, but if that score fills the bar, a victor shall be crowned. Demigryph Knights and Knights of the Blazing Sun pushing forth as war wagons were just completely inundated and swarmed by wolf rats. Now the wolf rats are being punished for their aggressiveness, rat ogres and a bunch of other stuff pouring into the fight over on the right flank. And here on the left, Ikit Claw dropping the first of what will presumably be many Doom Spheres as the Knights of the Blazing Sun look to escape from whatever hellish warp technology that thing represents. And they wouldn't be able to kill off the Doom Wheel very easily anyway. It's heavily armored, single entity. Knights of the Blazing Sun don't have a ton of AP, and more importantly, they would just expose themselves to a bunch of weapon teams fire, so they are right to escape and deal with the chaff, and then wait for opportunities like this one. Demigryph Knights have been flanking for the entirety of the battle. It's been about 5 minutes, and now, because those battle lines have broken down, range units are going to be left open, isolated, without proper cover. And though there are Warp Grinder teams in the back, and they have the Seismic Earthquake, they have the Snare to deal with cavalry, and they should be able to pin down these Demigryphs, it's going to come a little bit too late, as one Warp Lightning crew is just completely decimated by that charge. War wagons, or what remains of them, firing into the flank. Volkmar the Grim thinking about moving his way over. Cascading Fire Cloak and the Fire Mage, the Bright Wizard, on high with that Pegasus, supporting in any way he can, imbuing melee defense and weapon damage. But the Empire's true monster killing potential here is in their shooting, and they can't easily shoot without hitting their own elites. No dummy halberds or fronds on Deathclaw, so the Brood Horrors and Rat Ogres, if they can avoid handgun volleys, should be able to trade pretty well, and they've done a good job clearing up some of the Imperial chaff. It's weird calling state troops for the Empire chaff because they really shouldn't be, but in-game, that's exactly how they've been designed, and I think that's okay. Can't translate everything exactly as it is on the tabletop and in the lore, but yeah, 300 gold spearmen, essentially the Empire equivalent of clan rats. Volkmar finally made his way over. That means ward saves and the Grand Hammer of Sigmar, more melee attack, and that'll be enough to turn the fight. Flensing Ruin hitting the Demigryph Knights with lances. Ikit Claw is nearby, but doesn't really want to engage them. They don't really want to engage each other. As I said before, surrounding the Doom Wheel, you're not going to kill it fast enough, and then the weapon teams really have a choice target to blast you apart. Rat Ogres are doing a really good job of diving into the back line. They've gone after the handgunners and lined up a really clean, sensual charge into their ranks, bowling them over, just an avalanche of meat and muscle, and the results are going to be fairly predictable. It's Red Ruin. It's patty cake, baker's man, baking blood cakes out of human flesh as fast as they can. The Empire's responding. They watch in horror as their brothers are slammed over and over into piles of mush. They have Enfilade coming in from the east, Outriders in support, multiple lines of fire. Give them a volley. And volleys the Skaven shall catch with their faces and in their nasty little tails. The second of however many Doom Spheres Ikit Claw spawns with, going into the Imperial State Troops and Knights of the Blazing Sun, Demigryph Knights, and that push from the War Altar of Sigmar, Volkmar the Grim, Flaming Sword of Ruin, the cavalry is pushing forth and looking to break into the Skaven backline. And so we're kind of seeing a push and pull on both sides, the mobility elements going after the range play. It looks like the Monsters of Moulder are in some ways ignoring the Empire Cav and vice versa. It's just going to be a race to see who can eliminate the most important targets faster. Will the Skaven have enough meat shields in the backline to defend and keep their weapon teams online? And which side actually defends against those kind of cavalry or highly mobile attacks better? Hard to know. Balance bar is still dead even. Skaven are still in command of the single objective on the map. And perhaps it would have been good for Norland to have brought a single unit of Demigryph Knights with Halberds or the Royal Altar of Gryphites, because there are so many isolated pockets of Moulder monsters running around that would just be completely ripped apart by that bonus large AP combination. It's too late for that now, though. Flaming Sword of Ruin together with the Flagellants and this Imperial Cavalry contingent. That is going to be a massive sledgehammer, a fist of righteousness the Thagaraki will have trouble dealing with, especially with their own monsters in the Imperial back line. And as I said, they're kind of trading here. The Emperor's Wrath, whose name we have not called much this battle because it really hasn't made a large impact, is now surrounded. Really nice play from the Skaven here because the Warp Lightning Cannons are firing into the Demigryph Knights who overlapped the engagement, and the Lance variant is not that great at killing these single entities or, hell, even the Rat Ogres. So they essentially have to get all their models into base contact. That groups them up, and that allows the Warp Lightning Cannons, these Giselles, and the Rattling Guns and Toothbreakers to really cause all kinds of carnage in and amongst their ranks. Knights of the Blazing Sun dealing with Skaven Slave Spears. They are getting trash canned by the combination of Rattling Gun and Giselle Fire. They may not be alive for long, but it looks like the Knights of the Blazing Sun were able to push through, and the Outriders on the other side may decide to charge into melee just to tie down these units and prevent them from firing. That is indeed what they are going to do here. That's a good play. They're not going to be able to kill them off very easily in melee. Outriders have fairly poor stat line, but with Flaming Sword of Ruin and another unit of Outriders and the Fire Mage coming in, these Skaven weapon teams are finding themselves pretty much on an island unto themselves at the moment. They are being cut down by the mobility game. Do you believe in Sigma? Volkmar is literally all the way in the back line. You don't see this very often. He's not dealing with the main contingent of Skaven. Battle lines are just so broken down, and this battle is so spread out that it's kind of hard to keep track of where everything is. Demigryph Knights managed to deal with the Brood Horrors, and it looks like a nut could potentially have been cracked. Skaven do not have a lot left, and there are still roaming pockets of Demis and Knights of the Blazing Sun. But Ikit Claw is still alive. He is full HP and presumably has the majority of his magical outpouring still around. So he could try to force a blob and just Warp Lightning Cannon the shit out of it. He also has a Brood Horror, which will be regenning, and little pockets of Skaven Slaves and Clan Rats spread throughout the map. Warp Grinders hitting them with the Warp Quake. Earthquake from below, gonna tear through those Flagellants and really mess them up. Balance of power definitely shifting in the Imperial's favor, and I'd say they have a very good shot to win this one. But one thing has not been noticed yet. That is the fact that the objective in the center is still capped. That little green bar, green like the color of Warpstone, the thing that powers Ikit Claw's Doom Wheel, that bar is rising. and it is rising fairly fast at this point. I believe if that number gets to 700, the Skaven are going to win, even if they have very little left on the battlefield. So, again, something to keep an eye on. Maybe the Imperials haven't noticed it. They're too busy killing off the rest of these Thagaraki. Fire Tornado from the Bright Wizard, killing a huge section of the Skaven. Racking up those kills, that looked awesome. And the Grenadiers turning hordes of clan rats into itty-bitty giblets. Really nice volley from them. Yeah, I mean, they're so good at clearing a low armor chaff, whether it be zombies, Skaven slaves, clan rats. All those units just absolutely destroyed by a volley of grenades, and the Bright Wizard continuing to chase the weapon teams and slave rats off the map. And now we've got kind of a badass duel here. Ikit Claw setting up for a upgraded Flensing Ruin and a Doom Sphere. And looks like the cavalry will notice it, run by, but they'll still get hit by what is essentially a final transmutation that also lowers armor. Took a lot of damage there. Ikit Claw is getting some really good value, managed to rout off the Knights of the Blazing Sun. And now it's a duel between two lords that really aren't known for their dueling prowess. Ikit on his Doom Wheel and Volkmar on his Pimp Chariot. Neither one of them are really designed for killing large targets or single entities, so we'll see how that one goes. Demis with a big charge into the Brood Horror, which does not have a lot of armor. They've been buffed up by the Bright Mage with Cascading Fire Cloak, and they have a full surround off. That should spell doom for the Frankenstein monster, and may throw one or two more vomits their way, spewing some bile, but it will fall to the Demigryph Knights. And the Empire essentially have full control of the battlefield. Rat Ogres in the back line, killing off some war wagons and charging into the Outriders, but all this time, the Skaven have had control of the objective in the center, and the Empire did not notice they ever capped. You know what that means? It's a Skaven win. Doomwheel and Volkmar are actually literally neck and neck in their duel. I was super surprised about that with the Grand Hammer of Sigmar, Grand Shield of Faith, and Regen. I figured Volkmar would just stomp that engagement, but Flensing Ruin must have done a number on him and must have gotten some good attacks with the Doomwheel as well. But even though the Skaven were, all intents and purposes, going to lose that one, there's no way Ikit Claw was going to be able to kill the rest of the Imperial army. They had the objective, and with their initial 3,500 men, lost more than 2/3 of that, and the rest of them routed off the battlefield. They really effectively only had 1 or 2 models left. They took control, and they're not going to be able to attack the Karak afterwards, but they did win that battle fair and square. Ikit Claw and the Skaven, with their sneaky schemes, managing to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. Myself and the Empire, the Cavalry, did great. Really like the Bright Mage and Volkmar support with the Cav contingents, Demigryph Knights and Knights of the Blazing Sun, Flaming Sword of Ruin and Grand Shield of Faith, Grand Hammer of Sigmar, all that. So good in those cavalry pushes. It's just a sledgehammer that can run over pretty much anything. Ikit Claw put in tons of work, and the Avalanche Mortars really put an immense amount of pressure on my ranged troops and really caused all kinds of carnage in my battle lines as well. Tons of firepower on that Skaven build, and really fun fireworks showcase. Hope you guys enjoyed it.